Right. And I'll say again, welcome to our Ontario Network of CAPC CPNP online conference. Here we are in day one, and we are welcoming Sheila Robson, who is going to offer us grandmother teachings. And Sheila provided us with a beautiful opening to our conference this morning, and also held space during our learning and teaching circles yesterday. And we're just delighted that she's here again to offer teachings to us. And Sheila Robson, Firewoman, the one who lights your inner fire, I welcome you back, and would like to hand things over to you for the teachings. And as you know, I'll be here if you need anything, and look forward to hearing what you have to say, Sheila.
Jimmy Gwet Sydney. So bonjour Kinawia. Ishkure kwe Dishnakos Makwadodem. The Benamag Jamnadon, the Benamash Kukmakwe. I am Bear Clan, and I'm Turtle Clan on my mother's side. And so I'm also a carrier of two names. I have two spirit names, and the description of the first one that I received is that healing energy of the earth. So that's the first one, and the second one is, of course, what Sydney had said, lighting your inner fire. So I'm that spark that lights the fire inside, and I get everything going. And also the next part of that is the healing energy in the earth. So I carry two names, and I've been doing teachings for a really long time, and I'm just really grateful and honored to be here with all of you today. And so we're going to talk about the grandmother teachings. And so as everyone is aware, you know, in our solar system, we have a grandmother, we have a moon, and that's who we refer to as our Nokomis, our grandmother moon. And our Mother Earth, you know, is connected to our grandmother. And in the universe, we have many moons. And so when we look at our lives and we look at the earth, you know, all of us have grandmothers. We all have a grandmother, and we all have that connection to our mother and our grandmother. And so when we have a monthly ceremony that honors our grandmothers and honors our grandmother moon. And that ceremony came about years ago by a Nokomis and or Kokum, whichever term you want to use in your language. And so she went out and she fasted. She fasted for a few years to receive that ceremony. And so that ceremony has come about, and so we all, you know, in communities and on reserve, off reserve, wherever, all over the world, actually, it's worldwide, you know, where our grandmother is acknowledged, and it's in all cultures and all nations. And so during that time, we lift up our water, and because our water is also connected to our grandmother, the moon. She controls what happens here on the earth, and she, you know, she controls those waters. And, you know, we're a fishing community. We have fishers here. So we're a fishing community, and our fishermen, they keep an eye on the weather. They keep an eye on our Nokomis. And depending on if she's going to shine or if it's cloudy, you know, they're always watching, and they've made that connection. They've made that connection to our Nokomis, which is so beautiful, and to our mother and to the waters, eh? And so those waters, you know, those waters are healing waters. And when we think about our Nokomis teachings, we think about, you know, how we give life, the women. also the men, because they're a part of that, right? They take care of us, and they're keepers of the fire. And so we sit in water for 9 months, and and then we make that journey to come into this world, into this realm, if you will. And so getting back to our fishers, you know, when our fishers go out on the waters, they always have their tobacco. I know in our community they have their semon. They bring their tobacco out and they make offering to the water, you know, and ask for safe journeys while they're on the waters, eh? And so they've made that connection, and they watch the waves and they watch all of those things, and you know, it's so beautiful, and there's just so many teachings about that. But we're here to talk about our Nokomis and her journey. So our grandmothers are the backbones of our family. Our mothers are the backbones of our family, and we get all of our teachings from our grandmothers. And so it's really important that we sit. I don't know if any of you have done this, but I remember being with my Nokomis, my grandmother, in the kitchen, watching her cook, listening to her stories and listening to her share. You know, as a child, sometimes all we want to do is just play and go outside and, you know, and do all of those things. Or she might kick us outside. I know I was one of the ones that got kicked out. But sometimes when I got older, you know, she would say, I would ask her for recipes, and she would say, the only way you're going to learn is if you watch me. You'll have to watch me. That's how you're going to learn. And so I would take time to come in and look and keep an eye on, you know, how she was making things. And my grandmother never used cups or spoons. You know, she always used her hand. So she would, you know, when she would get her flour to make her scone or bannock, or, you know, her bread, her Indian bread, you know, she would take the cup and she would put it into her hand, and then she would put it in like, so we use our hands when we cook, you know, and we use our fingers for a pinch of this or a pinch of that, right? And so that's how she used to teach. And there was no, you know, there was no right or wrong way um, in how we learn. We would always be corrected, and if not by our own grandmother, by other grandmothers. And so when I started this journey coming back, you know, I guess it's important to understand and to know that my background involved addictions and violence and abuse and all of that. And that's the reality of our upbringing. That's the reality. You know, my ancestors were residential school survivors, you know, and my grandparents never talked about that within our family. And that's really important to know, because a lot of things had gotten lost along the way. And so our ceremonies had to go underground. And in order for us to pick that back up, you know, those elders who managed to hang on to it and have since passed were able to come back and pass those teachings on. And that's how our Nokomis grandmother Mary had received teachings, but also in her fast, you know, in her journey in fasting, and you know, and coming out into the lodge and sharing all of her teachings. And she said that it's really important for all women and men to understand and to know, because when, you know, when we come on our moon time, that's what we call our grandmother. And those teachings are really important, you know, especially when we're growing up, as we begin to grow up and, you know, we hit puberty. That's a time when, you know, we need to congratulate our youth, our young people, and give them those teachings to help them to understand that beautiful change of life that we as women all go through, eh? And sometimes maybe there's some that may not go through that. However, there's fasting that can take place, and um, and that's where all the aunties and the grandmas and mom comes together, and we surround that young woman and give her those teachings. She might take a berry fast, or she might do a grandmother bear fast. I was really fortunate and really blessed, during my healing time, that as we get older, I wasn't able to do a berry fast. I still could if I wanted to. I chose to do grandmother bear fast. And that fast is a little different from the berry fast. Um, Absolutely amazing. And how I came to do that was I had had a dream and a vision, and I shared that with some of my teachers, my grandmothers and grandfathers, and they kind of guided and directed me and helped me and showed me, how that was to take place. So it was a year-long ceremony as well, right? So very similar to the berry fast. You go out on the land, only it's a little different. And it just seems so appropriate, and it made sense because I'm also Bear Clan, and what a joyous time that was. So, and my daughter, who's 14, she's preparing to go for her grandmother bear fast. She wants to do, I gave her the choice and option. You can do grandmother bear fast or you can do berry fast. It's up to you. And for a young person, that's really, really important. It's really important to give them those options and to let them decide exactly what it is that they want to do. Um, it's a beautiful time. So when she lets me know, Mom, I'm on my moon time, I tell her, oh, congratulations, good for you. And that's a time where you do nothing. You rest, you rest and take care of yourself. And you so we've kind of gone back to the old ways, with a little bit of today's teachings as well, because we have to move forward. She can't completely, do nothing and sit out and and so, at home, when we're home together, I take care of her, I cook for her, and I make sure she's comfortable. Does she need a heating pad? And, stuff like that, because that's a really important time. That's your life-giving time. That creator and those grandmothers are trying to tell us we are now in a life-giving stage. And, it's so beautiful when you have all of those teachings to understand the connection with our Nokomis, with our Shkukamakwe, our Mother Earth, and with all of those waters and what that means. And, that also means that our bodies are cleansing and we're healing. So anything that we've picked up from months past, right? That month, from that time, the last moon time, anything that we've picked up, our bodies are healing, and it's leaving our bodies so that we can go forward, so it's really beautiful time in our lives. And our grandmothers have so many things to share. And I always like to encourage everyone in your communities, take time to sit with the grannies, take time to sit with your grandmother. And if your grandmother has passed on, find a grandmother that you can go and sit with. In our community here, in this community, I go out and I sit with the grannies. They all know me, and I take time to have tea with them, get to know them, understand them, and hear their stories. And I have learned so much from the grandmother's guidance and direction. And when they ask me to do something and take care of things, I do that. I go out and I take care of those things for them, and it's always important to check on them, especially, during winter storm time or heat or whatever, right? And to ensure, in the summertime when it's really hot, that they're comfortable, and, and that's a really, really important, thing to do. And I strongly encourage everyone to take that step and to do that and check in on our elders, because, you know, they're not here for a long time. We just never know, when those teachings will go out the door. And they hold things. This is what I've learned about the grannies, say about those Nokomis, is that they hang on to things, they hang on to teachings until a certain time. There's always a certain time, and it's almost like a calling. And I always just seem to show up at the right time. And then all of a sudden, I'll get an amazing teaching from them. And I'll be able to carry that and share that. And grandmas are very private. Their grandmothers are private about their lives. They don't like the social media. They don't like, anybody knowing their business. That's another thing that I've come to learn, is that they're very they like their privacy, so we have to be respectful. So in dealing with them, those 7 grandfather teachings that are out there all over the world, love and respect, courage, wisdom, humility, truth and honesty, all of those teachings, they carry that. And they say that they have lived, so they have lived long lives to get to grandmotherhood. And so they earn that, you know, and they're willing to pass and share whatever knowledge that they have, eh? And it's up to us to pick up those teachings and to carry those as well, because all those young people out there, the children and the young people, they watch us, they pay attention to us. All the youth out there, they watch us, and they're always observing, and they hear everything, right? Whatever conversation that you have. So, they've also taught me to be careful with the words that I speak, and to use the gifts that Creator gave us. And I talked a little bit about that yesterday, those gifts that Gajem Nado gave us, that gift of seeing and hearing and speaking, touch and taste and smell, right? All of those teachings. And so we have to be mindful of how we carry ourselves. And I myself am a grandmother. My grandson is actually 15 months old today, and he's absolutely amazing, and I take him as often as I possibly can. And there's that connection, right? As my grandson, I knew I could just feel when he needed to see his Nokomis, you know, and and how beautiful, my connection with my grandson is. And my Nokomis, who's at another meeting today, she's a great grandmother. She has a great grandchild and several grandchildren. And so I want to ensure that my grandson understands um, how important it is to be kind to Anishinaabe Kwewok, right? To the women. And that's where those other teachings come in. I hope I haven't cut out or anything, or I haven't lost internet. Okay, just
I hear
checking.
you. Yeah.
Okay, good. And so, how we carry ourselves um, is really important. And we often get asked to go out and sit with children, sit with youth. And I guess, understanding the medicine wheel and the importance of the medicine wheel, and our roles on that medicine wheel. I wish I had brought my diagram. I have a diagram that I had drew a few years ago so I could have a better understanding, because a lot of our people are visual learners, and when they see it, they retain that information, right? And that's so important, and for them, so that they can pass that on to their children and to their grandchildren. And so I'm going to talk a little bit about my grandmother bear fast, because I think that's really important, and people don't know a lot about the grandmother bear fast. It's not talked about. It's a very, very old fast that is starting to resurface. I know it's here in our community. Our community accepts that grandmother bear fast, and our young people get to choose and decide. And so we have to go through that grandmother bear fast while we are still, in our life-giving stage. I'll say it that way. And so I'm no longer in that life-giving stage. I have moved on and journeyed to the next stage of life, and that is that grandmotherhood, eh? So um and I offered, so when I had my dreams and I had my vision, I'm a very ceremonial person. I'm always out in the bush. I take my bundles out there, and I offer Saman, I take food offerings, and I acknowledge, the land and the trees and plants and everything. And so when I received my dream, I'm the kind of person that always waits for another one to surface before I do anything about it. Sometimes it takes me 4 dreams before, you know, I have uh before I decide to do anything about that. And so I think that I had gone to speak to grandmother and grandfather, and offered that tobacco and talked about what I had seen. And the grandfather had said that he had said that we have a place, because what I saw was where I was fasting. That's what I had saw, with the grandmother bear fast. And so he took me to that place and showed me, and that's exactly what I saw in my dream and my vision. And so we got prepared for the year. It took a year to prepare. I had to make items and make personal things for everyone, and think about those people, and talk to spirit and pray lots, and prepare my feast food. And so we had ceremony before I had gone into my fast, and I was out there for 5 days, when to complete that fast. And then more came while I was on that fast. And then I emerged. It's like coming out of I'll say it's like those bears that are coming out of hibernation. When I came out of my fast, I realized how loud the world really was, with the cars and stuff like that, right? And it was absolutely amazing. It's like a rebirth, and it's just so beautiful. Something had popped up there. I'm just gonna try and move myself down to the
I,
chat.
s- I see a
I-
question. Do you
yes,
want me to
why do
read?
we have
Yeah.
13 grandmother moons? So my understanding, thank you, Laureline. My understanding of that is um it was put to me this way by one of the grannies. There's always a once in a blue moon. And so there's one moon for every month. And in one month during the year, there's an extra moon. So there's a moon at the beginning of the month, and there's a moon at the end of the month. Now there's 13 grandmother teachings as well. And I'm still learning about that. And oh, thank you, Heidi. Yes. There's a blue moon in August. So that extra moon. And I'm not entirely sure I understand why that is. 13 is definitely a significant number, you know, for us women. And I know my grandmother had 13 children. She gave birth to 13 children. And yeah, I'm not sure. I'm gonna have to look into that. I need to sit with some grannies who have those moon teachings, and I suggest everyone do the same. You know, when you question and you want to know, you know, about who you are and want to know, have an understanding of those grandmother teachings, we search and we seek out, you know, those grannies out there that carry those teachings, and and that can help us. I'm a sun dancer, and during one of the Sundance fasts that I completed, um, I actually had a dream about 13 moons, 13 grandmothers, and I didn't understand that. And the grandmother of the lodge, that's what she had said to me. She said, "You need to learn about those moons." So I'm still learning. I don't know everything, you know, and I don't claim to know everything. Um, I have to go out and I have to ask and sit with some grannies and find that information and understand that. Our moons for every month of the year have different names. They call them different things. And um, there's how do I say this? I guess the different tribes call those moons every month different names. So they all have different labels, right? And so there's Anishinaabe, there's Cree, there's Lenape, you know, there's Lakota. They all have different names for their moons in every month, and each one is a description of what happens during that month, right? And we talk about those at full moon time. You know, when we have a full moon ceremony, that's when all of those teachings come out. And we talk about those things, and we talk about how we take care of ourselves as women, you know, as Anishinaabe women. And we teach, you know, the men get their teachings from the fires. So when we have full moon ceremony here in our community, we talk about the month, we talk about the moon that we're in, and we make our ties, we make our yellow or white ties, and we talk about that lifeline that we've walked, and we that's our time together as women coming into circle. We drum and we sing and we feast, and we talk about how we carry those things, and oftentimes a fan or a feather is passed around so that women can share and and speak about whatever it is that she has gone through from the last time. So this month is bear month. So we made our bear bundles this month. And so when I speak about, I'm not going to show my bear bundle to you. That's my personal thing. Um, However, there's a ceremony that's taken place, and we make our bear bundles. And those bear bundles we carry around on our persons all the time. And it collects anything that we've carried, you know, over for 3 months. And on that third moon, so that'll be in April, that's when we release that. You know, we release that bear bundle and we put it to the water. That's usually how we do that, right? And so what I found in carrying my bear bundle is it gets heavy. It gets really heavy. For such, I'm gonna just use an example like a tobacco tie, right? If you were to carry around that tobacco tie, you know, for 3 months, and put, you know, in your times of difficulties, sadness, or whatever, even happiness, right? You'll find that tobacco tie will start to get really heavy. So it's kind of like that. you know, or when we carry those stones, how they heat up for healing, right? And so we've made our bear bundles, and so that's, you know, we carry that around, and they have bear ceremonies this month. Bear Clan ceremony is this month, and so I got invited to go to one, but I wasn't able to attend. That was my time with my grandson, so I had my grandson for the weekend and kept him. um when does the baby start building their bundle, from birth or after the first year? The baby is the bundle. The baby is the bundle. So the parents, you know, are the caregivers of that beautiful baby bundle. And so when baby comes in, you know, in utero, baby hears everything. Baby feels everything. We feed our babies all the nourishment that they need. And when they make their entrance into this world, they're welcomed with the love of their parents, and the parents, it's the parents' responsibility to provide love and kindness and caring, you know, all of those teachings. They're the first ones. So when before baby comes into mom and sits in that water, um baby's already sat with creator, and creator has already given baby all those teachings. So when baby's born, you know, baby comes in pure, and mom and dad have to pick that up. And grandparents pick that up, and aunties and uncles pick that up. So now everyone surrounds baby, and it's on the full moon when baby is born. Okay, some babies are not born right on the full moon. I'm not saying that. I'm saying that around the time on a full moon. So if baby came at the beginning of the month and full moon was on the 11th or the 13th, that's where grandmothers, so myself, we pick up our babies, you know, our grandchildren, we hold them up to the four directions and we announce them, right? Their first bath is a cedar bath. You know, that was my responsibility. I gave my grandson his first cedar bath. And when he come home, I lifted him up and I introduced him to all of creation and to the four directions. And I announced his name. His name is Akadewin. And so that was my responsibility as a grandmother. And so we teach those little bundles, and you know, we help them to grow. And then someone had, sorry, I'm just going to check this chat because I had saw. So is the carrying the bear bundle and releasing during the ceremony a way for those participating to understand how heavy things can be to carry and to be able to release them, so literal and figurative? Yeah, so when I carry my bear bundle, um, I'm carrying it for 3 months. I'll carry that till April. And it's all of the stresses. I'm just going to say it this way. All of the stresses that in life, the stress, the sadness, the hurts, the aches, the pains, all the emotional stuff that we carry, you know, goes into that bear bundle. And we carry that around. We have to really try hard to not leave it at home, so that everything, all of that energy is going to go into that bundle. And then when we release and let go, we put it into the water, you know, for healing. And the feeling that we get when we let go, and it's got to do with attachment, right? It's got to do with attachment, and being able to let go all of that, and also attachment from children, attachment from our family members, and attachment from situations, life situations, right? And that's a really tough one. It's really tough. Um, I hope I helped you to understand that. Uh, but let's talk about that. Let's talk about attachment and let's talk about what that means, because as a grandmother, our grandmothers have to let their children go, right? Our grandmother has to detach herself and be able to let her children grow up and live their lives, right? And so as moms, we have to learn to do that as well, to let our children grow up, make their own decision, and when they become adults, to make their own choices and decisions. And I'm always working on attachment. It's a non-stop thing. I'll be doing this the rest of my life. And so one of the ways that I help myself with attachment is I'll lift my children up and put them in creators' hands. And because we're a visual people, you know, if you picture if you picture hands, creators' hands, right? And you put your babies, how much do you love your babies? You put your babies in your own hands and you lift them up and you say, here you go, and you put them in creators' hands, you know, and that's letting go. That's cutting the attachment. And then through healing practices, one of the tools that I received in helping me to detach and allowing my adult children to live their lives, is cutting the cord. So I physically will use my hands as scissors and say, okay, I'm going to let my daughter go and cut that cord. And that's the umbilical cord, right? That's the attachment, right? One of the grandmothers had said to me one time, and she said, you got to quit carrying your children around. You're always carrying your babies and you know where you're carrying them on your shoulders, right? So you know how we lift up our babies and we carry them around on our shoulders. She showed me physically, this is what you're doing. Are your shoulders hard? Are you feeling stressed there? Yes, I'm feeling stressed. There. Is your neck sore? Yes, it's sore, right? So I'm going to stand up and show you this one because she says to me, she said, Sheila, she said, you have to let go of your children. She said, you got to get them off your shoulders and you go like this and you just brush it down and flick it off, brush it down and flick it off and go like this. That's it. I'm not carrying my children. I'm not carrying anyone anymore. And yes, I have my pink shirt on today for bully. Anyways, so there's the teachings are just so extensive when it comes to our grandmothers, and it's so big and so vast. And in this lifetime, I am never ever going to learn all of those teachings, all of the grandmother teachings. I would hope that as I'm learning and as I'm sharing, that it just gets passed on, so with each generation, so that our future has these teachings, because it's so important and it's so beautiful and it helps us as women, right? Because we are all spirit beings. We are all spirit beings living on this earth, having a human experience. And once we realize that, and once we understand that, and we know that within our hearts, right? Um, Life is just a breeze then, right? We just go with the flow like water. So as the water travels around, Mother Earth, we can do that too. We can just travel around, just like water, right? And in one of our grandmother teachings, the water that flows through our veins, the blood that flows through our veins is like the water that flows through Mother Earth. Those are her veins, right? So we are very much connected to the grandmothers and to our Mother Earth. And as Mother Earth gives life, so do we. We give life. And we need our men. Our men, are fire keepers, and they light those fires and they take care of those fires. Now, this is very controversial stuff, and people might disagree with me, and that's okay. You know, in our community, now, and there's also, because I'm also Lenape, I was actually told by a grandfather, and because of my name, Firewoman, that I have my own fire and I can light my own fire. So when I was learning about different teachings and that in Lenni Lenape, we can make our own fires, and that came from a grandfather in my community, my other community, Moravian town, right? So the women can make those fires if they need to for each other, right? And so it's known here in Neashing Naming that I do that, and I take care of those things too, right? And when I received Ishkorekwe, that fire, it was a grandfather who told me, because your name is Ishkorekwe, you're a keeper of the fire as well. And I don't claim to take over anything from our Anishinaabe and Nene, because our men are so important, and we need to acknowledge them, and that's their responsibility. So I always get my boys or my husband to light my fire, right? Take care of that. And my daughter, she'll offer Sema to my husband to make a fire for her. And it's really important to have them at our full moon ceremonies, to take care of us in that way, because that's a time when our men come together and they gather and they get to visit and they get their teachings at the fire. And it's so beautiful, and it's our responsibility during full moon ceremony time that we make feast food for them and we feed them. And the berries that we have to lift up and offer to our Nokomis, and the waters that we lift up to our Nokomis and pray over, that we give them a drink, and we give them some berries as well. So we take care of them that way as well. It's reciprocal, right? Give and receive, and we take care of them and they take care of us. And then while we take our ties out to the fire, and we're putting that in, they're putting the cedar on top, and they're taking care of that for us, and they're helping us to release and let go. So I always like to mention that it's really important when you have a full moon ceremony and there's fire keepers there that you've invited, acknowledge them, thank them, for being a part of that. And I always do, we always acknowledge them. We'll make them a dish, we'll take them food, we give them thanks, we give them gifts, and honor them in that way, because they are so important, and they teach the little boys. That's the grandfather side of it. They take care of those things, right? They take care of our little men, and even our little girls, who might want to go sit at the fire with them. Maybe she doesn't want to sit in with the grandmothers and get grandmother teachings. Maybe she wants to go sit with the grandfathers, and there's nothing wrong with that. She can certainly do that, and they'll welcome her. She might have questions, and she's looking for that understanding. That's what she's looking for. And so we encourage our children to learn, and whichever way it is, because she'll always come back. She knows her place, and those little ones will always come back, to the grandmothers to get more teachings. And I'm just going to check the chat again, because I see there's a couple of, okay. Yes, it certainly is a gift to be in the company of any grandmother, you know. There's this lady, I used to live in Toronto a long time ago, and I used to see this grandmother. You know, she was a street grandma. She lived on the streets, and she had this shopping cart. And I think, I think her name might have been Mary. She was always on Spadina, I think, or yeah, or somewheres around there. Anyways, she just kind of came to mind when I was reading that. And when I was a teenager visiting in Toronto, I used to go and sit with her, and I would ask her, "Are you okay?" And she would, "Oh yeah, I'm okay." So I would sit down and have a conversation with her, and she just really appreciated the company, and I don't know why she popped up, but I guess she's important to mention because all grannies, you know, what she had told me about her life is that she chose to live that way, and she was happy and she was okay. She had places to keep her warm, and she felt safe, and people were always coming up and acknowledging her and giving her things that she might need and asking her if she was okay. And I just thought that is so beautiful. So whenever I seen her, if I was on the street, she would be pushing her cart full of items. And I don't even know where she was from. I just knew her first name, and her name was Mary, I believe. And I would see her all over the place, and I would just always go up and have a conversation with her. And it's so important. And another thing I want to mention is I had traveled my husband had taken me to New Mexico. We went to Albuquerque, and I got to dance in the world's largest powwow there. And it was a grandmother that led me down into the powwow. It was the last year they had it at the pit, eh? And that was around my birthday time. So he took me on a trip there, and I wore a jingle dress. And so this grandmother came up and she looks at me and she told me how beautiful I was. And she said to me, she said, "Have you ever been here before?" I said, "No." She said, "Have you ever been, you've never been here before?" She said, "I'm going to take you." She said, "Is it okay if I lead you?" She said, "You stay right behind me and I'll take you right down to the pit in the center." And I said, "Okay, sure, I'll do that. And she had this buckskin. She was just so beautiful. She had her buckskin regalia on, and and you could just see the medicine and smell the medicine in her, eh? And I just felt it in my heart. She was just so beautiful. So she said, "I'm going to take you to where the grandfathers are." So she did. And so when we got dancing down, it was like a snake coiling up at the bottom of the pit, right? So we were all coming in and we're dancing around. She took me right to the center of the powwow, where the staffs were, the medicines were burning, and that's all you could smell was just medicine. It was so beautiful. It was such a beautiful experience. And while we were there, I got to meet a grandmother from New Zealand. The Maori people were there. And so I got to sit with her. She came over and she sat down, and I asked her if I could get her anything. I said, "Is there something I can get you? Can I get you some water, or do you need shade, or I have an umbrella, I could help you with that." "Oh no," she said, "I'm fine." So we got talking, and I got telling her I was from Canada, and stuff like that, my first time here. And she shared some stuff, and everything that she was saying reminded me of my own Nokomis, my own grandmother. And I had to tell her that. I said, "You remind me so much of my grandma, and I miss my grandma." I said, "I miss her so much. So thank you for sharing and for spending time with me and talking to me." And she said, "Where is your grandmother?" And I told her she's passed over. She journeyed to the other side. And so this grandmother from New Zealand, she said, "Oh, so you don't have a grandma no more?" And I said, "No, both my grandmothers are gone. I don't have a grandma anymore." And she says, "Well, I am your grandma. I'm adopting you. You are my granddaughter. And we're always going to be connected. And even though we're not together, all you'll have to do is say, 'Grandma, come see me.'" She said, "And my spirit will travel. My spirit will travel and I'll come to you in a dream, or you'll hear me," she said, or I'll bring a grandmother in front of you and they'll say what you need to hear, eh?" And I get goosebumps talking about it because it's so spiritual. And I guess that's where it's taking me to, is that no matter what walk of life our grandmothers, all these grandmothers all over the world, they are spirit beings and they have lived here longer than we have, and they have had their life experiences, and they're all connected as well, right? They're all connected. And I just think that is just it's so beautiful and so amazing. And I guess I just want to say I'm so grateful that you've taken me down grandmother lane and journey with the grandmothers, and having all of these teachings, because teachings come in many, many different forms, right? And what a beautiful, what a beautiful, beautiful way of life that we have as Anishinaabe people, as, four nations. I'll say it this way, as four nations people, because the granny teachings are in every single nation, right? And it's up to us to share those teachings with each other so we can remind each other, right? One of the things that is coming to me right now is that when we have our babies, and I told my son and my daughter-in-law this, that when we have our babies, we always lift our babies up over our heads and play with them, right? And we never want to be leaning over them completely, because we don't want to take that energy away from them. We want them to keep their energy. So with my grandson, when he would come over, and he still comes over, he's getting pretty heavy now to be lifting up over my head, but I give him all my energy, right? And that's what grandmas have. We have lots and lots of love energy to share. And not only with our own grandbabies, but with all children, all those little ones, right? That maybe don't have a grandma, we can adopt as well. And maybe that's what the Mari Nokomis had told me, is we can adopt grandbabies. I know there's some grannies out there who have adopted, and I guess who's coming to mind is little Zane right now. He really pays attention, and he's autistic. He's an autistic little boy, and he is just so smart. I did a drumming and singing on Zoom for a grandmother's ceremony, and I did drumming and singing for ceremony time, and he happened to be there. And wouldn't you know, that little boy picked up a drum, he picked up stick, and he would bang on the floor, and he was drumming and singing today. And that started probably last year in the summertime. While today, that little boy, he drums and he sings and he remembers. He's got such an amazing memory. And, I could almost call him my grandson too, little Zane, because, I taught him something and I just love him. He's so beautiful, and he's so smart in his own way, right? So I see a little thing in the chat there. I'm just going to have another look. Um, Yes. Well, we are all beautiful spirit beings. We are all beautiful spirit beings. And when you think you don't know, you know, as human beings, sometimes we don't know, but you know what? Our spirits always know, right? And our spirits, we know those grandmother teachings without even realizing it. And what a blessing. What a beautiful, beautiful blessing it is to live a good life and to carry those grandmother teachings. And also what's coming for me, you know, when we have those dreams, you know, one thing that I want to say is that it's really important to make those dreams come true, right? So if you're having a dreaming about fasting or doing a strawberry fast, you're never too old to do that. You can still do that because I know grandmothers who do berry fast, you know, when they find their teachings and they feel drawn to that, right? And so at our grandmother moon ceremonies, we have had people from all over the world. And we had this young man, his name was Juan, and he was from Japan. I think he was from Japan. And so he came over here as a helper. He came to learn English and he came to Canada as a helper. And so his woofer. Because there's a thing out there where, you know, farmers will take people in and teach them and give them, you know, they help each other, right? And so his woofer had brought him, she brought him to full moon ceremony, and my boys were doing the fire. They were taking care of the fire. So she brought Juan, and he played this flat flute. I'm going to call it a flute. I don't know what it is. It was probably about that big, and it was flat, probably only about that size, you know. And so my boys, my sons gave him teachings about the fire, and Joanne shared what they would be doing over in Japan at that time of the full moon. He said that, now I'm not sure what else it is that was taking place over there, but he did say they were having a 10-day ceremony at that specific time. And so when he came to ceremony, we drummed and we sang outside and we held out our tobacco ties up to Grandmother Moon. And he had tears in his eyes, and so we passed the feather around, passed the fan around for everyone to speak. And when Jawan spoke, he said, I'm so grateful you invited me to ceremony. He said, because in my country, in Japan right now, he said, they're having 10-day ceremony and I feel like I'm home. I'm so grateful to be sitting here with the grandmothers. And at that time, I didn't consider myself a grandmother or nothing, right? Because I was learning. And he said, I feel like I'm connected. So our Nokomis told him, bring out your little flute piece. He said, she said, and I want you to stand at the waters, and we're all going to stand behind you. And I want you to play your little flute. She said, you play that mouthpiece of yours, because what's going to happen is that song and that vibration is going to travel through the waters, going to travel all over the waters until it gets to your country, to Japan, where your family is, and they're going to hear you. She said, I want you to play 4 songs, and you do that for your people, because we want to acknowledge all your people, you know. And it was so beautiful. It was so touching and so amazing, at that time. And also, you know, there was another time where we got moon teachings about the eclipse. So that's another teaching, right? Another grandmother teaching where our Mishomis and our Nokomis come together. They come together, you know, I'm gonna say it this way, once in a blue moon, right? And so it was put to us this way: our grandmother and our grandfather, they come together and they make love, right? And then they move on, they keep going, right? So they pass each other. Well, our mother, the earth, comes in between, right? And so we have our grandfather's sun and we have our grandmother moon, and their child is the earth that we live on. That is, that's their family, and how beautiful it is. And when we look at the universe, how it's so vast, and I think about all the other planets that have more than one moon and how blessed they are, all the grandmothers that are watching over, all of those planets, and whether or not, I mean, there's definitely life elsewhere for sure, right? There's definitely life elsewhere, and it's just so amazing. And there was another time when Jupiter could be seen. This was quite a few years ago, and they said you could see Jupiter's moons with the naked eye. So it was after midnight when I picked up my dad. I said, Daddy, do you want to go and see Jupiter's moons? Let's go try and look for it. So we went down to Prairie Road here, and because it's all open space there, you can see the sky. And so he brought his binoculars and I went, and so it was, yeah, it was after midnight when we traveled, and you could see Jupiter's moons. They were right, with the naked eye. And I just think it's just so beautiful, I encourage everyone to spend time with their grandmother, go visit her, help her. Maybe she needs her lawn cut. Maybe she needs something heavy moved. Maybe, she'd like you to make a meal, or something. So I just cooked for 3 grannies this past weekend. I made foods that they're not supposed to eat, and that's salt pork gravy and scone. And they were so grateful. They were so grateful and they enjoyed, you know. But I always try to boil all the salt out of the salt pork so that it doesn't affect them too much, right? And just give them a little piece of scone. So anyways, so those are some of the things that, the things that I do and things that I've learned, and I guess now what I'd like to do is just ask, are there any other questions that people might have, and open this up, because we have just under a half an hour now. So if there's anything that's yelling out to someone, and there is no stupid question, there's no wrong question, there's no stupid question, every question deserves an answer. And so yeah.
There's a question from Lee in the chat, Sheila. She says, is there anything specific that is well appreciated in the programs you run?
Oh, is there anything specific? Let me just
Yeah.
find that. Is there anything specific that is well appreciated? No, I don't think there's anything specific. I think people are just grateful to receive, right? Always grateful to receive teachings, smudge, um, make offerings. And I think having an understanding is really important for the human mind, and that can be really difficult. Sometimes we have to be so blunt, and we don't mean to offend anyone, right? We try to not offend anyone or hurt anyone with our words. And so oftentimes I'll say, I have to say it this way, so, you'll have a better understanding, right? And we try to not sugarcoat anything for women and men. We try to not do that. We try to use our words in a good, kind way, eh? And like one of the teachings that is always, yeah. So, I think everyone is just really appreciative of even spending time together, just having a come together. We can't blame COVID no more for stopping us from gathering and whatnot. We can be mindful of each other and respectful of each other, right? so that no one is hurt or gets sick or anything like that, right?
Mhm.
And yeah, yeah. I'm a medicine picker, medicine maker, and maker of teas and stuff like that. So I always bring medicine when I come to ceremony. I try to bring some medicine tea for everyone so
Mhm.
that to help their immune systems and things like that, right? So I
Mhm.
like to do that. Um, I also do Reiki, so I do energy work, and and I'm the kind of person that doesn't like to touch anyone because I've worked with many people over the years who don't want to be touched.
Mhm.
So if they're crying in ceremony, don't touch them, just leave them alone, and they will let you know when they need a hug or, a handshake or what have you, right? So those are some of the other things that I've learned in groups and ceremonies. So when I do energy, I just use my own energy, and I'll do around like this. So they don't feel me, but the response is absolutely amazing because they actually do. They feel the energy, right? And
Mhm.
things moving. And and that kind of helps them to open up a little bit more, if you will, right? And believing and and mostly in themselves, right? Because I like to encourage men and women to trust themselves and to follow their hearts because your heart won't steer you wrong. If you listen to all the activity up here that goes on in the mind, it's going to drive you crazy. Oh yeah, that's what I was going to talk about. I forgot. I just reminded myself. So you might notice, okay, on a full moon, you might notice that the people are going to act up. They're not themselves and they do things out of the ordinary. And that's because the energy of our nokomis is so strong, that when we work with people who have some mental health issues, it affects them. They're very, very sensitive, right? So they might say things and do things that normally they wouldn't do, right? And so our Nokomis, her energy is so strong that that can happen. So oftentimes at full moon time, I'll talk about those things as well and how important it is to be mindful. Okay, full moon's coming. Notice your feelings. How am I feeling? Notice your thoughts. What are my thoughts,
Mhm.
right? Um, Notice those emotions and what can you do with those emotions, because there's things that we can do to take care of ourselves, in times of anger. We don't have to lash out and scream and swear at anybody or hit or or break things. We don't have to do those things, right? We can go outside and chop wood. We can,
Mhm.
we can use our energy in a different way, right? um Maybe we need to make some yeast bread, right? And we can roll that out, I guess, or use Play-Doh or stress balls, because I really don't want to encourage anyone to put anger into food, because that energy, we don't want to eat angry food, right? Because if we eat angry food, then we're all going to be mad. And we don't want that. So food's not a good thing. Don't do that. But those stress balls, maybe making those balloons with sand and having stress balls, or those what do you call those Chinese balls that they have that make noise? Those are really, they're really comforting, you know. So if we can think of, different tools and different ways to release all of that. And that's what we do with our bear bundle when we carry that around so that we don't get out of hand, right? That's going to help us. So we put all of that in all of our energy goes into our bear bundle, and that helps us to take that away. So if you'll notice in the communities, usually around a full moon, that's what happens. People get all out of sorts. right? One of my staff often use blowing bubbles for the little ones. Yes, that's a good one, and even for even adults, right? I like doing that too, right? Um, yep, there's chopping wood, shoveling, you know. I have noticed behavior changes in children around new moon. So new moon, oh, I'm so glad that you mentioned the new moon because that's a whole different teaching. Still a grandmother, still one of the teachings. So the new moon, when you see children running around like that, and that's our contrary moon. That's a different moon. I was born on a new moon. That's when I was born. I was born on a new moon. I'm a contrary child. And that's when we have our ceremonies. So contrary people, and they call them backwards people, they call them Wendigo Con, you know, they call them funny people, they call them clowns, and it's not talked about a lot, right? And we're not hurtful or harmful people. We don't want to hurt or harm anyone. Our intention is good and healing, right? And sometimes we're perceived in a different way. However, I do carry those teachings as well. And I just wanted to throw that out there because those little kids that are running around the new moon time, that's little people time, right? That's also little people time. So we put our bundles out. We make bundles and we put those bundles out there and those children, that's the direct connect. So it's beautiful. It's a beautiful, beautiful time as well. I'm just gonna have a look here at the chat I see. Okay, changes in, yeah, new moon. I always went into labor during the full moon. Well, my grandma used to say, that babies are born around the full moon or the new moon, right? That's what my grandmother used to say. And do I make teas for pregnant moms or for moms with postpartum? There are teas, yes. Yes, there are teas that you can take before you have your baby to help with an easy labor and for postpartum. Absolutely. Yes, there are teas that you can take. It's good to know, it's good to have a connection with those medicine makers and healers that have that information, right? I personally would not recommend teas for anyone for my own mind. However, I did help my daughter-in-law. I asked her, is this something you would be interested in? And she said yes. Then, I helped her with her teas so that she would have a easy labor with my grandson, right? And so there are medicines out there that we can use. Absolutely. Are they hurtful? No, not for baby and not for mom. As a matter of fact, they're really helpful. And I always like to encourage, speaking to your doctor or nurse practitioner about those things, because our medicines, the Western and traditional medicines, we can come together and we can work together, so to ensure that mom and baby and family is comfortable and healthy, right? Um, so in my community, the only person that I've helped is my daughter-in-law with my grandson. And I did it with her. So she would be okay and comfortable, right? Because when they have question and when they have doubt, we don't want to push anything on anyone. And I don't do that either. I let them make their own choice and decision. And once again, it's back to following your heart. Is this something you strongly believe in, right? Listen to your heart because your heart won't steer you wrong. The heart is our fire, like the center of our mother. She has a heartbeat. That's her heart, right? And just like on our Daewoo guns, those drums, that heartbeat, right? So if we follow our hearts, our heart will never steer us wrong. Listen to our bodies, but if we listen to this thing up here, our minds, we might not get the right answer, and we might have lessons to learn, right? I see someone else put something here. Okay, so let me have a little looky. Yes, okay, I answered for that one. I realized that the Bruce looks similar to New Zealand. Manitoulin isn't as similar, but perhaps it is what drew you to the Maori grandmother. Yeah, you know what I think Neashing Naming looks like on the map? I always say look for Snoopy on the map. That's what that's what I always say. I say we look like Snoopy on the map. You can't lose us. But yeah, that could be, oftentimes the grandmothers will pick people. So grandmothers will pick people to teach, to share, to show ways of doing things. Our grandmothers, so I like to say that I was chosen by the grandmothers in my community. I changed my life around. I got myself honest. I healed, and I continue to heal on my childhood trauma and my childhood experiences. And I continue to heal my ancestral trauma and ancestral experiences, so that I can keep doing the work that I do. And I have a great rapport with all the grannies here at Neashing Naming and all over the place. I always try to be helpful. Sometimes I'm running around. My energy is so big that I'm here, I'm there, I'm everywhere. When I go to a conference, in-person conference, I'll go around. If I see a grandmother sitting by herself with no helper, I like to go and I like to offer help or assistance if she needs that. So I just want to encourage everyone, in Zoom land, if there's a grandmother out there at a conference and she's sitting by herself, or she needs help walking or getting up off the chair, maybe she doesn't have water, please don't be shy. Don't be afraid. Ask her if she needs help. And the grandfathers, ask them if they need help, right? Because maybe their grandchild can't come, or their niece or nephew, maybe they don't have a helper. Well, you know what? You can be a helper. You can be a helper, and you can help those, our grandmothers and grandfathers. We need to look after them and take care of them, because that is where all the knowledge sits. And I just want to say, Chimi Gwetch, for allowing me to come and to share. I hope I was helpful, and I hope I was able to leave some good teachings and a good message. And,
Mhm.
I'm going to check the chat again. Thank you so much. Okay, me, Gwetch, yeah. Oh,
Mhm.
good. I'm so grateful. Yes, Chimmy Gwetch, thank you so much. Thank you. I just really I appreciate all the kind words. And that's it, eh? Kind words. So tonight when you go to bed,
Yeah.
lift those grandmothers and those grandfathers up and put them all in Creator's hands, those grannies all over the world, right? And
Mhm.
and let's just keep them in our hearts and remember that connection. And when you look at that Nokomis, even if you can't see her on a cloudy night, when she rises up, give her some acknowledgement and just put your hand up and ask her to help with your energy, you know, to use your energy for good and for helping in the community. And she'll do that if we
Mhm.
ask her, right?
Mhm.
If our fishermen are on the water, keep the waters calm for them. So just pray. I
Yeah.
always say pray, 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 right? So I just want to
Mhm.
say meet witch.
Miigwech,
Okay.
Sheila. Miigwech, Sheila. Um, so much more gratitude coming to you in the chat. And there's been some beautiful sharings on comment board. Let me just share that with you really quickly before we finish off here. We've just got somebody shared here. Nice to hear of the listening to the stories of the older relatives. I grew up in a multi-generational household and learned a lot from my older relatives and visiting relatives, and comment about the bare moon ceremony and what leads up to it. And thank you for the great teaching. Great to hear how each person is important for different reasons, and the respect for each other. Big love energy.
Yes.
And the baby is the bundle, and how grandmothers have lots of energy to share. And when we want to learn, seek out and sit with the grannies, right? Who can teach us. So these are just, and here's another, I love and acknowledge what Sheila shared, and a beautiful image there.
That's
I'll make that a little
beautiful.
bigger even just to look at it. And then I guess there's the
Yes.
map we were talking about
Yes.
of New Zealand. So those are some of the comments that we got, Sheila, during your time. And I want to just offer my own gratitude. I think this was a wonderful way to start us off on our 2 days. And I love, personally, selfishly, I love listening and learning from you. So thank you so very much for your time. And we do have some coffee cards to give away before we go on our break. And I've come up with, I was listening to you, and I have 3 questions from information that you shared.
Okay.
If that seems okay.
Yes.
And so I'll ask the question, and the first person who gets the right answer in the chat is my thought. So the first question was, what did Sheila's Nokomis use to measure when she was cooking? And lots of people have the right answer, her hands and her fingers.
Yes.
I think the fastest person for me was San, she had hands in there. So congratulations, San. Gets one of the prizes, one of the $20 coffee cards, but looks like lots of people were really listening there. That's really great. Okay, so here's the next one. Okay. Oh, okay. Sheila talked about the fast that she did. What kind of fast did she do? Yes. Lots of people putting bear fast, or grandmother bear fast.
I think
who's the first person? Yeah.
I think Victoria.
Victoria?
He said grandmother bear. Yes.
Okay.
Grandmother,
Victoria.
and that's what it was called, the grandmother bear. Yes.
So Victoria, congratulations. That's awesome. And I have one more if we're ready. Okay. And so Sheila, you choose the winner again this time.
Okay.
The question is, so baby's first bath is a blank bath.
Yes. Yeah, Lee got it.
First, who did?
Lee.
Lee.
Yeah.
Baby's first bath is okay. Excellent. There we go. And so just before we say goodbye and go on break, I want to remind you that we have here, let me put it in the chat. We have a short survey to get your comments and feedback on this session with the grandmother teachings. So I'll put that in the chat. And congratulations to all those who won a prize. And we will be going on about a half-hour break now and be reconvening at 12 noon. and we have a wonderful presentation from Davidson Elder talking about engaging fathers. So I do hope you'll be able to come back for that. So we'll keep the room open, but feel free to turn off your cameras, go get myself. It's coffee time, so yay. I'm going for that. And I think then all that's left is one more offering of gratitude to you, Sheila, for your wisdom and your sharing of your time and your humor and your warmth. It's just always a pleasure to be in your presence. So thank you very much for teaching.
Oh, Nishi.
And I know you're able to, as much as you're able to be around for the next couple of days, we welcome you, and you will be joining us again at the end, I believe, on Thursday, right? So we'll get another chance to see Sheila. So thank you, Miigwech, and thank you, everybody. And we'll see you again just before 12, and we'll look forward to our next session. Thank you, everybody.